Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Check Writers Room. Three GPs, three angles, one hot take.
I'm Yasmin Cruz-Farine.
I'm Shalonda Armstrong.
My name is Sydney Thomas. Let's get into it.
All right, today's episode is special. We have a hot take from Yasmin, and she's going to give us something to think about in this new world of AI that is moving faster than we can wrap our hands around it. Then we're going to go into a story we're watching, and then our favorite segment, Would You Write the Check? And Sydney has a company that she's going to present to us. So let's kick things off. Yasmin, what's the hot take for this week?
So my hot take is we all need to practice what they have in medicine called downtime. So in medicine, they make, I assume the hospital administrators and the IT team make the computers or EHR, electronic health records systems, unavailable. And it's not once when, in a blue moon, it is regular. And I think with all of us adding agents and to some degree using AI for true cognitive and judgment roles, that this is something maybe we should consider. And in the medical field, I think the most aggressive kind of timeline is monthly doing this, and on some hospitals do it quarterly. But I think this is something we should all consider.
So, what is downtime? Is it like I need to get brick and turn off hide my phone from myself and take a nap? Or is it like a yoga? Is it like an hour at the gym? What is it?
I think it is not that. What I think they do is to make sure all the workflows can persist. So I guess the question is sort of back to the both of you. If you were to, where we are today, kind of turn off your agents, not use Claudette for a moment in time for however many hours, what would break first, you think, in all of your workflows?
Yeah, so this sounds like disaster recovery, almost. And I mean, what will break first is probably me, right? Because it's so much of what we do is based off of some automations. But I do think you have a great point, Yasmin, is when you find yourself relying on these workflows and automations so much, you start to lose some of the kind of the secret sauce of what makes you special. I compare it to like GPS. No one knows how to get anywhere now, right? Given how much we rely on GPS. But if you think about when we were younger, we knew our way around our city in ways that other people didn't know.
But that's a really good analogy, though, because why I think we should do this, and I'm not anti AI and by any means or pushing like a Luddite argument here. What I'm saying is, what if there are, for example, junior members on your staff who don't have muscle memory of writing memos, doing research before this? With the GPS analogy, if we do not practice, I'm concerned there are people who won't even know they're lost. Because there's something called an automation bias, whereas if you don't have the cognitive reps, you actually do not challenge what is produced. So what I think we should all think about is actually more about resilience and practicing, kind of making sure that we know how to push against what's being served to us, and making sure our team members can do the same.
I was just talking about this with somebody yesterday. She's another entrepreneur, and I was talking about how I asked Claude to create a memo for me. They got it wrong. I told them they got it wrong, and they were just like, "Oh yeah, you're right. I got it wrong." And I think there's I think there's something also around the conversation that you get from your AI that is actually shuts down conflict so quickly that actually is negative to this critical thinking skill, actually developing it. I actually would have liked Claude/Claudette to say, "Oh, you're so right. When I read this, I misinterpreted this. Like, show me your work. Back to like actually maybe
Mhm.
just taking out a piece of paper and walking through it. Be like, where did you get it wrong and how did you get it wrong? So that I know you won't get it wrong next time. And I know also how better to prompt you next time so that you don't get it wrong again. I think some of that wrestling, the messiness, is so washed away in AI. It's just like so quick to solve every solution that it's actually in the messiness where some of these, I think, skills are learned. We're in audit season at Symphonic,
Right.
and back to pressure testing things without waiting until the end to see like how everything works or doesn't work and what you need to fix. I got some feedback from another person who works in the city government, and she's like, yeah, we would pressure test our work every quarter. Like every quarter, you
Right.
basically do your own internal audit to make sure that the external audit, once it's ready, is just like easy peasy ready to go. And so I'm wondering if there's something, a similar practice here where it's like every quarter you get rid of Claudette for a day, pressure test if everything still works, what breaks, fix it, go ahead, do it again the next quarter. Like if there's some type of like practice that we could build in, because I think you're right around the resilience. Like who knows if these companies are going to be around in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the same thing. Like, I think in medicine they do it because if the computers aren't up and like something fatal happens, like clearly the risks here are not the same. But I do think the hot take is less about, okay, this is just a version of disaster recovery plan. I think the hot take is that we should do it and we should probably do it quarterly. And what's likely going to happen is no one's going to do it ever.
I think that I don't want to say no one's going to do it ever. I do think folks are going to find whatever their cadence is to do it. And again, I'm going back to the GPS analogy, right? I think we all know, especially if you're in a city that you're familiar with, you will hold off on using your GPS until you get to that critical point where you go, okay, now from here, I don't know which way to go, right? So I think that folks probably for a while, to your point, Yasmin, may not lean into it as much as they should. But I think everyone's going to get to a point in their business where you're going to say, all right, too many things are automated now. We do need to pressure test. To Sydney's point, you do want to check your internal controls without, any level of automation, just to make sure that it's sound. And to Sydney's point, there is a lot to learn in the messiness of it, and that can't get lost.
Yeah, I think the point is like with your own guardrails, like where is AI simulating judgment and making sure that that's the part that you're pressure testing. And the agents game is really like moving to the forefront. Like I had dinner with one of our investors and they added an agent to their HR team, and there was so much interest that this agent was a real person that they were actually thinking about like, is this AI agent available after 5? Why
Hey,
why isn't he coming to the drinks, and no one on the team knew that. So let's imagine, like this AI agent is on sabbatical. What do we do with their workflow?
yeah. Yep.
Fair point. And as we're talking about AI agents, as we transition to like a story we're watching, have you guys heard about FeltSense and what they've done with the YC demo day? So, the story we're watching here is FeltSense, which is this company that, builds agents. They went into the most recent YC demo day, the recent batch, and they were able to replicate every company's agent and basically show that this, the accelerator that I know it's extremely competitive, people spend a lot of time applying to, they spent months building, they were able to replicate their business and go live with it in less than 24 hours.
Wild.
I mean,
So,
the fact that they're able to ship product that had been developed over a timeline in 24 hours, and essentially what this did was question, right? Like, do you need this founder? If this
Right.
founder can be, if you can create their product in 24 hours and ship it in 24 hours, like, does this company need to exist? How flimsy is the moat? But then what I started thinking about, well, then does felt sense need to exist? Because someone could just create an agent of agents. And like, where does the analogy stop?
I think that's a really interesting point, and I am curious. We say that they were built over 6 months, but maybe they weren't. I do think there has been a move towards vibe coding for founders that does inherently um, question the underlying technology around whether or not there's any proprietary information there. Maybe these technologies did get built over a week, and then they spent the rest of YC mostly pitching the company to other like potential customers. Because I think what the different, like how we think about the world, um, and I don't know if we need to go all the way deep here, is that the new moat or like the new differentiation, the thing that will allow different technologies to actually stand the test of time from other technologies is actually distribution. And so, do they have a novel distribution strategy that gets them in front of customers that they wouldn't have otherwise gotten access to? Not actually, is the technology the best technology? Because all these technologies are getting built overnight. It's crazy.
Fair point, Sydney. I love that you said that because um, what is it? Less than 48 hours ago, we have Claude managed agents, and that is going to disrupt 1,000 plus startups that at this point now, especially, if you have something very niche where you were trying to, go through a workflow and have some level of automation behind it. Now enterprises, if they choose, and they still need the skill set to know how to do it and manage it, but they can build it within their Claude instance already.
Ultimately, if you're a company and you have enterprise contracts and they just renewed multi-year, you really need to think about if you should sell your company now, right? Like, while those enterprise contracts are fresh, because if though that's like a big bulk of your revenue, and if you can see it starting to slide in other areas, like, you got to strike while the iron is hot, right? And there's so much disruption. And Claude is thinking about the entire supply chain. Like, I was reading about cyber, right? And how cyber stocks are sliding because Claude and Anthropic, they're going further up their supply chain to ensure cyber security. So then what happens to the specific players who were kind of an add-on in tech in that arena? So I think back to your point around bringing it back to felt sense is maybe it was easy to replicate and ship the product because they don't have distribution yet because they're day zero. And also, we are also arguing whether or not brand plays a role. Like, what is
Yeah,
creating the
I've been hearing
friction,
that too. Yeah.
right? And so I don't know yet, right? Like, I think brand and goodwill has always been a tremendous asset on the balance sheet, and there are companies that get it right, and people, it breeds loyalty. And one thing that I realized lately is I feel like we're all trying to call Michael Porter. Like, all of a sudden,
I
we've all
love it.
gone back to like the five forces, like threat of new entrants, threat of substitutes. Like,
So real.
and maybe the takeaway for founders here is if you're going to pitch us, make sure you are leading the conversation around defensibility, and maybe you call out three moats. Because otherwise, if you're not talking about your stickiness in my head, I may just assume we're in a worse position than maybe how you see it and want to call it.
I,
Yasmin, I think you said a couple things there that's just like a lot to unpack. So one, you talked about like if you have kind of that enterprise multi-year contracts looking at selling, right? And I think that where we are with agents, this may have shifted the whole M&A market in that respect, right? Because now companies can honestly take a look and do the truly, is it easier to buy versus build? right? If you already have a substantial customer base locked in, why can't you? It's almost like Slack versus Teams, right? They didn't need to buy Slack. They just did a parody of it and they called it Teams and they already had a customer base built in. So I do think that with a lot of these agents that were building standalone products, you may have just became a feature in a larger platform and you have to navigate that. And then as well as defensibility, I think right now, what does that even mean? As this is moving so fast, what is truly defensible right now? Are we going back to hardware?
I hope we don't go back to hardware. Hardware was it's too much. But I did have a my first career in the private sector actually was in Neenah, Wisconsin, working for Kimberly Clark in brand management. And I do think there is something to be learned from some of these companies, the consumer packaged goods companies. Like, who needs I was on the toilet paper brand. It was a very esteemed brand because it's $1 billion brand. For folks who don't know, Scott toilet paper is actually $1 billion brand. And who needs Scott toilet paper when there's Kirkland toilet paper and there's Charmin and there's like all of these things? Like, this is their whole world, is how do we actually convince someone who sees 10 different exact replicas of the same option still opt for Scott toilet paper? It requires you to be incredibly nimble. The things changed quite frequently, like what you needed to track, which consumers you were targeting, how you were targeting them. And it requires a lot of money. I think that's the other thing on marketing that I just don't know. And we're starting to see some of this. I don't know if you guys are seeing this on LinkedIn too. Folks are calling out that the chief storyteller or chief brand person at these companies, they're looking to hire them for like $500,000 because they are finally seeing how critical they are to their company's success story, which is just such a change and like sea change actually in like tech from the last 5 years where it used to be like engineers. And I would just say, hot take of hot takes, who are the marketers? Women. Does that actually allow for a more interesting or like interesting growth trajectory of women in tech that we haven't seen in some time? I don't know, but just some things that I'm tracking.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see what happens. It's hard to imagine that we've gone from founder mode and the CEO as the storyteller in chief to actually listening to someone in comms, giving them the talking points. It kind of makes you have to stretch the imagination that that's really what's going to happen. But I do think it's so important to be able to explain like your differentiation, which is not something new, but revenue had been kind of the solve for it all. And now when you have companies going, up and down in revenue with so much volatility, I think we're going to see teams trying to figure out how to maintain their dominance when software is being commoditized.
One of the things that an early stage startup usually waits for is to really beef up that marketing engine, because we all know when things get tight, the first budget to go is marketing, right? So now maybe that's completely shifted and we have a whole new playbook now, to your point, where it is really around distribution and storytelling and how quickly can you get there.
Yep.
It'll be interesting. Well, I know this transitions us to our favorite segment, Would You Write the Check? And so Sydney has a company for us, and it's not an AI agent, which we're excited about. And so, Sydney, talk to us about the company and would you write the check?
Yeah. So I really liked how we started talking about hardware actually in the previous segment because while I'm not ready to do to do hardware, what I am ready to do are tech enabled services. I think tech enabled services actually allow for a pretty resilient moat as we enter into this AI zeitgeist that we're in. The company that I'm bringing to the table is a portfolio company of Symphonic Capital. It is called Rosarium Health, led by Cameron Carter. We were really excited to write the check last year, the first check last year. He was someone we had been tracking for, at that point, I think close to 4 years. When he first pitched us, he was building a in-home modification tech services business that was essentially helping aging folks age in place. So if you have a home, but your home is 2 stories and you just got a hip replacement and you're 75, how do we actually retrofit that house so that you can stay in that house instead of moving and paying for transitioning to a nursing home, which is incredibly expensive and most folks cannot afford it. There used to be some budget for it in insurance companies where they would cover some amount of nursing home stays. But actually, last year, when the HR1 was passed, or the big beautiful bill, as some folks call it, there was budget moved away to save money from these insurance companies, away from covering nursing home expenses and towards in-home retrofit expenses. Cameron saw the writing on the wall, and right before that uh, bill was signed, started gunning for these contract conversations because he knew these health systems were scared. He knew these insurance companies were scared. Started building out these relationships that he had built actually for a really long time because his background's in healthcare. So he's able to leverage some of those relationships to create some exciting momentum for his company. What he's doing and why these insurance companies were so excited about him is he's not just helping the insurance company retrofit the home in theory, like saying, give me some money and I will do it myself. He's actually, his family is actually had a contracting business. And so he knows who the contractors are, how to actually leverage that community to get the folks to literally build the retrofit that the senior needs at a price point that is reasonable. So he's doing all of the coordination in the back end. He's finding the people who need the home to be retrofitted. He's coordinating somebody to come out and actually take a look at the home and understand what actually needs to be done and what the estimate should be. And then he's actually hiring the contractor to do the work and then paying that contractor when the work is done. We think that it's a business that's poised for incredible growth, largely because our country's aging. These boomers are chilling. They are not going anywhere anytime soon, which I'm really happy about. It means that we're actually able to age for much longer. But that means they need to live in places that accommodate them. He's also found opportunities to support children with asthma. There's also the opportunity to retrofit homes through some of these insurance payments for kids who have asthma. Maybe it's because there's asbestos in the home. And so there's money within the health systems to actually make sure that the asbestos or whatever the circumstances might be is taken out of the home so those kids can thrive. We backed him last year. He's since raised another round and has grown about 3x in terms of revenue since then. And so
That was my question. Yeah.
so
That's amazing.
thank you. So we've just been really, when you just also meet really good people. I feel like you talked about this too, Yaz, when you were talking about Jamie Jin, where it's just like he just gets it. He gets it and he wants to actually just help people. It's so pure what he's building. And so that's actually a big part of our diligence process too, is like are you a good human? Like, do you actually want to build something that's important and meaningful to the world?
One of the things that I read was that from Rosarium Health was that by 2035, 1 in 3 households will be headed by someone 65 years or older. And today, only 3% of owner occupied housing is categorized as accessible. Like, the demographic demand here is off the charts. And then the other thing, I was really impressed by the cap table who's helping him on this journey. But the other piece was his background. Like, he headed payer relationships at DaVita. And so the part where I was like, okay, amazing, like A plus plus plus, but can you sell? Or is this going to be the classic thing where you have a health tech enabled service company needing contracts and in pilot purgatory and no one's paying and they can't get the distribution? But he actually, beyond the lived experience on the construction side, like, he knows payers really well. So I guess what did you have to underwrite, like, beyond the founder problem fit?
Thank you for calling that out because when we met him 4 years ago, he was actually selling B2C. So he was selling directly to these aging parents and honestly to their children to tell them, hey, your dad needs this. Let me help you help your dad. Horrible go to market strategy. Love Cameron. Hated that go to market strategy. And he spent about a year, I think, kind of spinning his wheels there to see if he could figure it out. And when he came to us, he was like, I'm done with B2C. It's B2B. This is how we actually build something that can actually scale. And as soon as he made that transition, we're like, okay, let's go. Because exactly to your point, Yaz, he had the relationships on the B2B side. He was starting from scratch on the B2C side. And the competitors in this space had money to burn. They were all over the Facebook ads and the this marketing. They had the marketing engine already in full effect. And so he was coming from a place of lack versus when he leaned into his business, his enterprise contracts, he was actually the one who had the most, I think, he was further along than many of the other competitors in that aspect. So first we had to underwrite, like, one, do we think that this is a good go-to-market strategy? And two, do we think that this is something that can scale to a $250 to $500 million outcome? That's how we define success at Symphonic. It's not that we need $1 trillion outcome. We're looking for these folks who can build really strong businesses that can return our fund multiple times over, but aren't just shooting for the fences just because it's a cool story. I think that's boring. We also cared about do we actually believe he can build the right team around him to succeed in this space? One thing that we think a lot about, especially in healthcare, is we also don't like baby founders in healthcare. Is our hot take. I think, the 20-year-olds who dropped out of Harvard and are trying to build a healthcare company, I don't believe you can do it. And that's largely based off of our own experiences. Our best performing healthcare founders in our portfolio are 40 plus. They've been in healthcare for 20 some odd years. They know who to call when stuff hits the fan. They know who to hire. They know how the billing codes work. They know how, because there's just so much stuff in healthcare that you really need to understand in order to make things happen.
Hospital CFOs, they do not care about shiny objects and that you are 19 and, have a big, bright idea. Like, they are a very risk averse crowd. And I agree. I think this is an area where you need a network and not just a CS background or something like that.
Yeah, I think the thing that makes Rosarium interesting here is the time, the moment in time we're in. And so, as yes, we're going to have more boomers. They don't want to go to nursing homes. They are not giving up their homes because they have sub 3% interest rates. Who wants to give up that?
Or they're
Right?
paid off
Especially,
completely.
yeah,
They're living for free.
yes. So I do think we're going to see more folks in this space where you are going to have solutions for aging in place because no one's giving that up. And that's why we have a whole inventory issue within housing. So I definitely think this is a unique space that he's going after and what he's been able to build so far.
100%. I do think like the inventory question around how do we make sure that everyone has access to homes is still an ongoing question that we need to solve. But completely agree to your point too that these boomers, they have they also have larger houses on average than millennials, and so they just have this access to surface area that I think is actually irrational for them to give up when they're going to live for another 20, 30 years, and we're starting to see that play out.
Oh, my heart is broken right now. I don't like being a window shopper with this company. Not loving it. I mean, occupational therapy existed before this. I think the Medicaid payback period will be interesting to watch from afar. And then kind of being watching this company scale and being able to handle like both sides of this like kind of marketplace, the construction retrofitting side in addition to the payer contracts. So
For sure. It could.
wishing you the best from afar.
Thank you. Thank
No, I
you.
love it. So I think, as we wrap up, like, all right, what really got you excited about this deal? It sounds like founder market fit was really important. Also, just a founder who actually cared about what they were building and the impact that they were having on the world. But then also, they were going after a unique problem that is going to impact everyone at some point in life, right? And that's just aging in place. And so, while they're building in the US right now, there's absolutely opportunity for global expansion as well. So I think those are the three things as founders are thinking about how to get in front of VCs and what really stands out. These are the things you want to keep in mind.
I have another one, Shalonda, which is clearly this founder brought Sydney along in a productive way. And even when it wasn't working, they were able to continue the conversation and pivot productively. So that is also something to note here.
Absolutely. So, ladies, as we wrap up, our time together is coming to an end. I need to know what's bringing you joy right now. So, Yasmin, kick us off.
This is so easy for me. Okay. Victor Glover is bringing me so much joy. He is a girl dad. He has all of these daughters, a lovely wife, and just, I would say the entire Artemis 2 team as well. Like, it's just been a joy. But I saw one of his daughters, I believe her name is Maya, she did this kind of like the joy you feel, kind of a TikTok dance when your dad is the pilot for Artemis 2 to the moon and back. And she put kind of a Latin super astra ad lumen hashtag. And it was so beautiful to see just the joy and pride from his entire family. And it's rubbed off on me.
Aw.
I love it. So what's bringing me joy right now? So I am originally from Michigan, and shout out to the Michigan Wolverines for finally winning the national championship for basketball. So they won the NCAA Final Four, and so that's bringing me joy. I come from a Michigan family, so a lot of my friends and family they're very excited. I am still a diehard Terp. All right, so it's go Terps forever for me. But it's bringing me joy that they're having their moment. I also just want to reiterate, it took them 37 years to do it, but I am also very excited for them. So that's what's bringing me joy.
I cannot celebrate this with you. We are a Notre Dame family. There's no context which we support Michigan, except for, fun fact, our editor spent some time at Michigan, and we do have Michigan apparel here to troll my household.
I love it. I love it.
I am loving the fact that I get to hang out with my best friend from high school this weekend. We're going to Ojai for her bachelorette party, and I just can't wait. I love Ojai. Ojai is one of my favorite places in the world. It is just gorgeous, calm, like kind of like it has a combination of all the things. It's like a wine country, but it's also really chill, and like everyone there is just pleasant. You can bike around the whole town within like 5, 10 minutes. It's one of those. And so very, very, very excited to get to hang with some of my old school besties this weekend.
Love it. Love it. All right, ladies. Another episode, another good convo. Always good to chat with you, ladies. Have a good one.
See ya.
And that's the Check Writers Room. Special thanks to Natalia Skogo for editing. Subscribe to our newsletter and view show notes at checkwritersroom.com. Leave us a review wherever you are listening.